Hi and welcome to exercise 6. Like before, I've started up my AutoCAD and we go through our normal checklist. Grid obviously is on. I've got to click my snap to put my snap on. This one is ultimately important. On this particular exercise, you must make sure that your dynamic input and your dynamic UCS are grayed out. I've got my tool tabs at the top, 3D tools and visualize, and then it's just Z space A, enter, and we're now ready to start the drawing. Now if you look at the actual notes on the drawing, you'll find that we've got to make a 4 by 4 by 4 inch cube. Now we're going to do that by simply grabbing the rectangle command, placing a point down here somewhere on screen. Once again, incremental, so it's shift 2 gives you the @ sign, 4, 4 gives you the 4 by 4 square. Now because we're immediately going to extrude it, I'm going to grab the orbit command from the nav menu on the side and tip this thing over so that we can see around the sides. Okay, now we're going to go straight to 3D tools, hit extrude, so left click extrude, then left click the outside of the shape, right click, enter, and then enter a positive 4, so 4, enter, and then all we've really got to do is just pull the thing on screen. If you want to orientate it a little bit, I'll put it a bit like that so you can see everything. So what you should find, if you've got it laid out similar to mine, is that if you zoom in and the bottom part of the box comes anywhere near the lower part of the screen, my little 3D icons actually shot over to the side. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it would normally reside down where the green and the red lines meet. But obviously it just shoots out the way just to clear the center of the screen. If it is still down there, there's no problem. We do have to move it, and what we've got to do is actually move it onto the corner of this box. That way we will know exactly where the 0, 0, 0 point is when we start placing our spheres. So we go down to the command bar and type UCS, then enter. Now as soon as you enter UCS and enter, what you'll find is you'll get the sprig jump to your cursor. So you come to this bottom corner and left click. Now once it's in that particular position, it will want to know a point on the positive x-axis. Move it over to this right hand corner at the bottom and click. Now it will want to know a point on the XY plane, which is going to be that one there. So that's the y-axis, and click. Now what you'll see is it's basically asking us the x-axis, the y-axis, and because the x and y will determine the z is in the upward direction as we want it. So that's our UCS, and this is our 0, 0, 0 point, all set. So the next thing we have to do is to place the spheres, and I've chosen spheres for this particular thing. We could do other shapes, but the sphere, no matter whereabouts you put it, because it is spherical in shape, if we place its center point on any of these faces, we can later extract them to form a semi-hemispherical dimple. Okay, so the models, where do we get them from? Well, if we go up into the modeling tab up here where we got the extrude, you'll notice that if you click this little modeling tab here, what you've got is the different shapes, including a sphere, but that particular one, and all of these in fact, are meshes. They won't be able to extract the same way as the solids because they are an apparent shape rather than a solid entity with mass. they're just a skin. So you go up to this box command up here, and just like a lot of the other commands, if you look underneath there's a downward caret. These are the solid primitives, and if you click the caret you get all of the other solid primitives up, including the one that we want, which is the sphere. So I'm going to click the sphere, and it asks whereabouts is the center point. Now I wish to place a sphere with a center point from this corner 2 across in the X, 2 across in the Y, because we're looking at the center point of a 4x4, but 0 up in the air. So I want to put the bottom single dimple on. So I'm just going to enter, and we don't need the @ sign now because we're going absolute from that corner that we just moved. 2, 2, 0, then enter. That will give us our point dead on the base plane, and then we need to enter 0.25, then press enter. So 0.25, enter. And that places our first sphere in line with the plane. I'm just going to turn this thing over so you can see. So its center point is like halfway in and halfway out of that plane. Now, the rest of them, basically, there is a list attached to the end. You should really try to practice placing these on your own, but if you do get stuck, refer to the list and you will see the center points for each placement of every square on the dice. Okay, so the sphere on the dice, the sphere, is on the base plate. Traditionally, the 6 is directly opposite the 1. The 5 is directly opposite the 2, and the 3 is directly opposite the 4. Okay, so if we're looking at putting the 6 on next, we're looking basically at doing, just imagine from here, 1 across, 1 up, and then 4 in the Z to place it on the top surface. So you can look at the 4s. All this top plate will be 4s on the last command. It will be 1 across, 1 up, then 4. Next one will be 1 across, 2 up, and 4. Then 1 across, 3 up, then 4. Then it will be 3 across, 1 up, then 4, 3, 2, and 4, 3, 3, and 4. Now, I've just placed this sphere down so I can right click and exit that one. Then right click, let's have a look, repeat all but sphere. Okay, so I've got my sphere now and I just need to go 1, 1, and then 4. Okay, so I'm going to go 1, 1, 4, enter. Now you'll see the diameter is already set because we set it last time and it remembers it. So I'm just going to enter again. Okay, and then enter a third time, and it will repeat the command automatically. So now I can go 1, 2, 4, enter, enter, enter. 1, 3, 4, enter, enter, enter. Then it's 3, 1, 4, enter, enter, enter. 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, and then 3, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now, it might have sounded like I was going fast there, but I wasn't even looking at the list. You will get to the point where you can actually look at this being the 0, 0, 0 point, and then figure whereabouts on this surface you actually want your spheres. Okay, if I'm doing the 2, it will be 1, and I'm going to put it on this face, so it will be 0 in the Y. I want it straight up here. Okay, then it will be 1, 0, 1. Then it will be 3, 0, 3 for putting the number 2 on. Okay, because it will be 3 across, 0 up, but then 3 up there. So I'll end up with a sphere here and a sphere here. Repeat that one on the back face for the 5. That will be 1 there, 0 in the Y. Well, actually, no, it would be 4 in the Y. Nearly got that one right. And then 1. And it'd be 1, 4, 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, etc., etc., etc. Well, go through the list and place all of your spheres on. And whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to complete the spheres on this die, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so now that you've got all of those on, hopefully you've got them all in position. If you haven't, pause this video, go back, use the rotate if you need to turn it around. But if you keep it in this kind of axis, you'll be able to measure quite comfortably across the X, across the Y, and then consider where the position on the Z would be. Okay, so if you're up to this stage, congratulations. It takes a little bit of getting used to when you're working in 3D space. I'm just going to escape out the sphere command now so I can hit the orbit. But hopefully you can see that I've got a 1, a 2, a 5, a 4, and a 3, and a 6 on the top. So we're up to the last stage on the modeling side of things, where you've just really got to find a place where you can see everything, like you haven't got spheres over the top of spheres. So I'm going to place it around about there and let go. Now the reason for doing that is you really need to, you're going through the object to select these ones on the back, and you don't want to get anywhere near these edges, but you probably try to delete the cube as well as everything else. So once you've got all of your spheres on there and you're comfortable with them, or even if you haven't got them all, delete the ones or subtract the ones, should I say, that you can, then take it from there. Okay, you can always add things later and then subtract them. So I'm going to hit the subtract command. I'm going to left click my cube. I'm going to right click. I'm going to left click on every single one of these little spheres. I should be able to see them all. There's quite a few of them, so it'll just take you a couple of minutes hopefully to get all these done. And then once you've got them all, you right click and it will take the mass away and basically leave the dimples on the surface. Okay, so that's basically the model done. We just got to do a little bit of editing. We're going to put some fillet radii around the edges so they're not sharp. And to do that, we're going to go back to our Home tab and then go to Fillet. We need to set our radius. So we do R enter and then 0.25, then enter. So we've got our 0.25 radius set, and then we need to click the object. Once we've clicked the object and we've accepted the 0.25 radius, so we just hit enter, you'll then come up with a command which is loop, which will take a plane of any joining lines. In other words, it will just take the 4 edges around there if I want to do just a straight loop. Or C enter, which I've just entered, for a chain. Now one thing that I've noticed, and I don't know if this is a bug in the program right now, but you'll see that it's already selected a number of these lines in blue. They're not selected, but it comes up as being selected. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it will happen on yours or not, but what you need to do once you've done that is select the edges. So imagine just left click on that top edge, left click on the side, the bottom, the upright on the back. Do the same thing on these from the front, and they don't go blue, and I don't know why that is. And then each one of these joining lines, the bottom one, the top one, the back, and the bottom back. Now, by that, I'm saying just treat this as a back face, treat this as a front face, and then each of the lines between them, we make sure we select them all, then hit enter, and everything will fill it. If you miss one, it's not a problem. You simply just redo the fillet command, select the individual one, and then hit enter, and it will put them in. Or you can do a chain command as long as they are touching each other, and then put them in that way. But what you need to end up with is that whole filleted die with the dimples. Okay. Now, as I said, I don't know whether that is a bug, but it's definitely showing up on my screen. Hopefully you'll see that. If yours doesn't do that, great, fantastic. It should select and blue each line so that you can see which ones you've selected and which ones you haven't. It just didn't do that with me, and it's a pain in the butt, basically. Okay, so we got our die up there. We're going to do two more things. One, we're going to give it an internal void like this has a wall thickness on it. And secondly, we're going to slice it in half, so once you've sliced it in half, you can actually look inside of it. Okay. We're going to give a shell thickness of like 1/4 of an inch. We've been using 1/4 of an inch for just about everything else, so why not? And I'll show you where that command is. So the shell command, like the slice command that we're going to use to slice it in half, the shell command is under 3D Tools. If you look on this solid editing section and look to the middle bottom row, it's shell. Okay, so it says select a 3D object. I left click the whole die with all of its dimples and everything, and then right click and enter. The offset distance, as I've said, is 0.25 and then enter. Now, can you see that this is now, you've got like this little cube thing on the inside, and at the back of each one of the dimples, there is kind of a larger dimple. That's because it is a surface inside the cube. And we can't really see that per se right now. So what we're going to do, just to make sure that it is what we think it is, we can't do the solids yet because we're going to need this internal little box, is we're going to slice it in two and then rotate 1/2 away from it. Okay, so I'm just going to go down because I can't use my F9 key because of the recording software, and I'm going to turn my snap mode off. Okay, that way I can really get in fine to whereabouts these points are in here. So rotate it so that you can see this little point on its own away from anything else, this little point away from its own, and that little point at the very top in there. So we're looking at these corners. I'm going to do a diagonal slice. So we click the slice command, select the object to slice. Okay, now we need to specify a slicing plane. It's a 3-point option, so we're just going to say enter, and it says specify the first point on the plane. That's going to be my top corner. Now it says the second point. That's going to be this internal bottom corner, and the third point is going to be this other diagonal corner. Now it says keep both sides, both, etc., because it will take one away if you don't select it. So I'm just going to hit enter and just say both, and you'll see that our slice plane is now actually, it's split the model into two parts. Now I could rotate this, but I don't want to make this lesson any longer or harder than it actually is. So I'm simply going to move this half out of the way so that you can see the model. Okay, so I'm going to go back to home, to move. I'm going to grab this half here, left click, right click, and then literally just move it across the screen and left click again. Now I can go to my visualize, go to the icon when we get our different visual styles, go to realistic, And there we have our model, albeit a little bit bland right now. If you do want to color some of these up, like if you want to color the dimples, or the faces, or the internal surface, one thing we tend to do sometimes is to color anything that's a sectional view to show that it's not normally that way. And I'll show you how to do that, and you can play around with the colors. So if you want to color the sectional view, in other words, highlight this whole part here in red, you can go to 3D Tools, go down to Solid Editing, and pop that bottom menu out, and go to this little icon right on the end, which is Color Faces. So I'm going to click that, and then click inside of where you can see that band going around the outside of that cut edge. So I'm going to click it right about there. Once you've got the area that you want highlighted, and if you miss it or grab something behind, you can always redo it. Basically, right click, then enter anywhere on screen. Now I'm going to go over and pick red, and then say OK. And coloring faces is as simple as that. If I just hit my orbit command, you can see that I've now got that sectioned and shown that it's a section because it's bright red. I could do the same thing by selecting the dimples. Be very careful though, because it might pick one of these from the other side of a dimple. So maybe going back into wireframe will be a good thing when you get to that point, but you will see the mesh that forms the dimple turn the color you want. That way you'll know whether you got it or not. Right, so that's the end of exercise 6. Next week's going to be the mock and then the final. I hope you've had fun doing this course so far. Good luck on the last week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.